Hi everyone, it's Twinkie here, and thank you so much for joining me today in this video, which is dedicated to the topic of crushing in marriages. Now, I've been married for about 10 years to this wonderful man, and we have raised three children in a foreign country with a lot of things and hiccups and challenges that came along the way. Now, after having lived 10 years, there was a time in my life where I realized I just wish someone had given me a little bit of a heads up as to what I should look forward or brace for when I'm in a covenant relationship such as marriage. Now, having finished the 10 years, I thought this video, it might be really helpful for those who are preparing to get married, who are in the early stages of your marriage, or who are into a decade or more and still not sure what things have happened or why things have happened and so forth. So this video is just a tip of an iceberg. It's not a detailed message, but it's just trying to give you some sort of encouragement as to what is going to happen in this kind of relationship. So let's start in the book of Mark, chapter 10, verses 7 onwards, where Jesus is giving a response to someone who's asked about divorce, but he's taken the messages from, or the words from the book of Genesis to actually respond back to that question. So it's not about divorce, but he's going back to the deep-rooted fundamentals, or maybe the foundation, if I can say. So he says, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let not man separate. So that's kind of the words that he mentioned to kind of conclude or respond to this question about divorce. Now, if you just take the 7th and the 8th verse that Jesus spoke, because he's repeating it and it's his words now, we can go to this verse with the view of physical intimacy being interpretation of being joined in one. So there's so much emphasis put around physical intimacy because you're leaving your father and mother, or to start a new family and to be a new branch out of this, genealogy and so forth. There's so much emphasis around that, as at least what I have received over the years. But what I figured out, or what I understood by reading that word more and more, was that there is a particular topic about behavioral crushing or behavioral unity that has to come through from this two becoming one. So there should be a behavioral unity, and there's an emotional blending. So we have two different people with two different behaviors, two different psychology, two different traits and characteristics coming together. So it is very natural for that unity to happen through blending, crushing, or some sort of change to that personality. It is not to transform the person to an extent where they lose their identity, but it's to keep their identity as it is, yet go through this fusion process. Now, while I was going through this thought process and really diving deep into it, I was asking the Holy Spirit, how is it even possible? Like, how can two people become one, yet still have the identity and have that sense of uniqueness to it? So how is that possible? Won't they lose themselves in the process? And while I was praying and kind of going through this process, I was given, interestingly, the image of a peppercorn and a salt crystal. So I do actually have it right now with me. So if you look at it, I have a peppercorn, it's a salt crystal, and I also have a peppercorn with me. The two different unique flavors, two different unique elements of the earth that God has produced, and they are whole. They're like two different whole pieces. Now, if you think about it, when a peppercorn is in its complete self, like it's not crushed, it's not broken, if you try using this in a dish, its influence is going to be limited to that particular bite that you take from that dish, right? Because you need to bite into it. And when you bite into it, it gives you that sense of strong flavor, but it's not going to be as impactful compared to it being crushed. So let's take this and salt crystal. Now, salt crystal is also, it's a hard lump, it's a crystal that needs to go through a process of blending. And what happens is, if you think of these two as a husband and wife, I'm not saying who's who, you can choose that, but if you choose this as a husband and wife duo, when they get married, they're trying to be one, but they're still rock hard, like they're really hard. So when this unity is happen, you then go into something called a pestle. So I actually have a pestle with me right now, and we take these two and put it into the pestle. Okay, and I would say the pestle is more around circumstances. They enter into certain unique circumstances which are not probably the same for every single couple. Now, every single couple have their own kettle of fish, or they have their own unique challenges given to them, or their own cup. So once you go into this pestle, life starts hitting them quite hard. So you go hit, and that each of those hits and each of those circumstances, the pressures, all of that starts cracking them. And as they get cracked, it's not an easy or pain-free process. It is a painful process. And it could be any challenge, such as job situation, health situation, finances, mental health, anything for that matter. And they go through a crushing phase. And once the crushing phase is finished, it could be within a day, it could be a week, it could be a month, 1 year, 10 years. It can be anything. It can be intermittent. So there'll be years of, good seasons, and there are years of challenges and so forth. But as this process goes through, as you can imagine, what happens is the salt and pepper has now grounded to a point of, just really being grounded into powder form. Now, this seems to be a bit brutal, but think of it in this sense. If this powder or the salt and pepper duo, if you try looking at it, the salt and pepper have infused in so much with each other, yet their character and their own uniqueness has not been compromised. They're just more spreadable, if I can say that way. So when the crushing happens, the flavor starts blending with each other. The personalities, the behaviors, the psychology, all of those two people starts fusing in so much that they've not lost themselves in the process, but now they're becoming more impactful. So you take a pinch of this and you take a dish, which I would say it's life. So life is like a dish. It can be pasta, it can be rice, it can be sushi, it can be anything for that matter. And when you start sprinkling this, the simple salt and pepper sprinkled over any dish, anything that you have, it starts bringing in a certain kind of flavor that was not there for your life, but it is now there because you have gone through the crushing process. Now, the breaking is needed to increase your influence. The breaking in the pestle is important so that you can actually reach out more into the dish. You can reach out more into your life. You can start bringing in more flavor into your life because you have gone through the process. So when you spread these simple ingredients over any life that you have, like be it a simple life or be it a complex, high impact life that you have, doesn't matter. The flavor is enhanced. The joy, the peace, the love that you have is enhanced because of this particular blending that's happened. So the salt and pepper is there. You can see which is a salt and which is pepper, yet they are still one now. They're one mixture now. And many of the times what I have myself gone through is to resist the pestle. I try to resist the pestle and I try to resist the circumstances because it's too hard, it's too painful. But what happens is when I resist that crushing, I'm not able to break myself up more and have more of my flavor spread into my life, into my dish. Now that's where the catch happens. If one of the partners or both the partners are not willing to come together and go through this process together, the blending is not happening, they tend to hold on to that unique hardness. They're missing out. They're missing out on having a life that's more flavorsome. The moment I realized all of this, I had a gratitude for all the challenges that I've been through so far. I've been through certain circumstances which was so tough and so bone breaking. I felt like it was just life being cruel to me. But now when I look back to it, I actually have a deep sense of appreciation because God was faithful in not letting my biases and my preferences stop him from breathing into my life, into molding and changing me. So are we willing to be crushed when we come into a marriage? Now, before you get married, most of the time, even if you go for marriage preparation courses or counseling and all of that jazz, there are couples who go through certain circumstances where you might need to have a renewal of those kind of counseling sessions. So when things get hard, I would encourage couples to actually reach out for help, to give more sense from a helicopter view, if I can say, from people who are more seasoned, from people who have decades and decades worth of life experiences. I and my husband and I, we actually have a couple back in Melbourne who was so patient and so encouraging for us to get a realistic expectation of what would married life look like. And that was so important for us because we let them talk into our life. The danger is when we are so overprotective of our own life circumstances. We don't want anybody to know how things are falling apart in our life. And that becomes an issue as well. But be wise in who you trust with your vulnerability. Be wise in who you give this information to, especially the challenges. Because if they don't have the maturity to help you, then the chances are you're going to get more burnt or more disappointed from those experiences as well. So I hope this message helps you to understand the salt and pepper duo and how crushing is actually not to kill you, it's to expand your flavor in life. And if you come to life or to your marriage with this kind of renewed understanding, you might be able to get a different perspective and try to look at it from a different angle. I hope this message has been helpful for you, but till next time, have a good time and be blessed.